Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Thursday, September 3rd, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Typhoon Maysak reached South Korea's mainland early Thursday. As it heads north, the typhoon has caused property damage and disrupted flights and ferry services across the nation. President Moon Jae-in is due to chair the government's first strategy meeting on the New Deal initiative. The meeting would likely include discussions on bringing in investment from public and private sector to support the New Deal projects. And the International Atomic Energy Agency says North Korea seems to have continued enriching uranium, a potential material for nuclear weapons. Now we begin with the latest on Typhoon Maysak. The typhoon has been sweeping over South Korea's mainland. It has cut through the peninsula, influencing different cities on the way. We go live to our Kim Do-yeon, who's standing in Gangneung, Gangwon-do province, one of the last cities to endure the eye of the typhoon. Do-yeon, how is it looking there?
Mo-kyung, I'm at Gangneung Harbor, which is at the east coast of the peninsula. The eye of the typhoon passed by a couple hours ago, but we're still feeling strong winds, and as you can see behind me, it's causing enormous waves at the beaches. And thankfully, there have been no major property damage reported, despite this being one of the most powerful storms to hit in many years. The typhoon came to the city with central pressure of 960 hectopascals with the maximum wind speed of 140 kilometers an hour. The city has already seen nearly 350 millimeters of rain from the typhoon. Homes and roads in the area that are low level flooded overnight due to the heavy downpours. As for landslides, the National Forest Service issued the highest warning nationwide as of 5 p.m. yesterday, and that remains in effect. The eye of the typhoon now is in North Korea and is set to dissipate near Hamgyeongbuk-do province later in the day. That's all I have for you at this hour. Back to you, Bo-gyan.
Thank you for that report, Do-yeon. Please keep us updated. Now, Typhoon Maysak slammed into South Korea last Wednesday night, leaving a trail of damages behind it as it swept northward across the country. Jeju and Busan were among the hardest hit. Our Peunji has this report.
Typhoon Maysak has left many parts of the Korean peninsula in a state of chaos. It first made landfall in Jeju late Wednesday night, dropping over 1,000 millimeters of rain on Hallasan Mountain, causing numerous roads to flood. Cars were blown over by winds of up to 160 kilometers an hour, the seventh strongest recorded in South Korea since 1970. Power also went out in 36,000 of the island's households.
I prepared ice packs to keep things frozen, but I'm afraid this will end up going bad. We don't know when the power will come back on.
In Busan, the typhoon slammed into the city at around 2:30 a.m., causing power outages in over 3,000 households and damaging windows and walls. Police say one person died and 12 were hurt in the city. Ferries and flights have been canceled and nuclear facilities were powered down. As of 8:30 a.m. Korea time, the typhoon is hitting the Gyeongsang-do provinces with winds of up to 168 kilometers an hour. The city of Ulsan, just north of Busan, did not see much rain, but strong winds broke windows and caused power outages. Elsewhere, the western port city of Incheon closed 11 sea routes as a precautionary measure. Even for regions out of the storm's direct path, officials are urging people to be careful as strong gusts of wind are forecast throughout the day. Peunji, Arirang News.
And yet another typhoon is moving north, rapidly approaching the southern part of the Korean peninsula. According to the Korean Meteorological Administration, as of 3 a.m. on Thursday, Typhoon Haishen is likely to arrive at the country's Gyeongsangnam-do province next Monday. It is currently traveling at the speed of 22 kilometers an hour off the coast of Guam and will pass through Japan on its way to the peninsula. South Korea reported 195 new COVID-19 cases on Thursday, the fifth day in a row that cases have been under 300. Of Thursday's new cases, 188 were locally transmitted, with most of them concentrated in the capital region. These include cluster infections at various spots, such as Music Tuition Academy, sports facilities, and volunteer groups. There were 3 deaths, and the number of critically ill patients has surged to 154. President Moon Jae-in is due to chair the government's first strategy meeting on the New Deal initiative. The government is expected to hold discussions on a fund which will bring in investment from the public and private sector to support New Deal projects. The initiative aims to meet the country's future needs and create jobs that embrace 2 main pillars, digital and green. It will bring together officials from Cheongwade and the government ministries, along with lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Party and officials from major public and private financial groups. Due to social distancing, most of it will be done via video conference. The International Atomic Energy Agency says there's no sign North Korea reprocessed spent fuel from its main nuclear reactor into plutonium in the past year, but it seems to have continued to enrich uranium. Our Lee Seung-jae has the story.
In its annual report released this week, the IAEA says it's almost certain that no reprocessing activity for plutonium has taken place in North Korea over the past 12 months, but other signs point to the regime continuing its enrichment of uranium, the other potential fuel for nuclear weapons. The IAEA says the experimental 5-megawatt reactor at the Yongbyon nuclear complex, which is widely believed to have produced plutonium for weapons, has been shut down since early December 2018. However, satellite pictures, which show vehicle movements and the operation of cooling units at a fuel rod fabrication plant at Yongbyon, suggest North Korea has been producing enriched uranium there. The UN watchdog added that North Korea could also be enriching uranium at a facility just outside the capital Pyongyang in Gangsan, which has only attracted attention as a potential enrichment site in recent years. It said the construction of the Gangsan complex took place before the construction of the reported centrifuge enrichment facility in Yongbyon, with which it shares some characteristics. The IAEA has not had access to North Korea's nuclear sites since the regime expelled its inspectors in 2009, as Pyongyang pressed ahead with its nuclear weapons program and soon resumed nuclear testing. The regime's last nuclear weapons test was in 2017. According to U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear and Missile Defense Policy Rob Sufer, North Korea is continuing to build its long-range missile capabilities, possibly including a submarine-launched ballistic missile. However, Sufer added that the extent of it is unknown. In response to such potential threats, he said the U.S. is enhancing its missile defense capabilities, partly with the Standard Missile 3 Block 2A, which he revealed may be deployed in the near future. With such reports emerging on North Korea, the U.S. is calling on the regime to return to the negotiating table. This, according to the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, David Stilwell, who says Pyongyang cannot remain isolated and there's room for a brighter future for the North and the North Korean people. Nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington have stalled over how to sequence the North's denuclearization and U.S. concessions. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The United States has test-launched another intercontinental ballistic missile over the Pacific Ocean. According to the U.S. Air Force, an unarmed Minuteman III ICBM equipped with a test re-entry vehicle was launched early on Wednesday from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. It traveled over 6,700 kilometers to the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. This comes a month after the last U.S. test launch. The Air Force said its tests are to verify the accuracy and reliability of its ICBM system. The United States is imposing new restriction on Chinese diplomats, requiring them to seek U.S. government approval for a number of activities. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo explained Wednesday that senior Chinese diplomats need approval when they visit university campuses and meet with local government officials. Pompeo added cultural events with over 50 people hosted by the Chinese embassy or consular posts outside the mission's properties will also require prior approval. Germany says Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is the victim of attempted murder by nerve agent. However, Moscow insists it found no poisonous substances and is calling on Berlin to share its information with them. Our Kim Jae-hee reports.
The German government said Wednesday that there's unequivocal proof President Putin's most prominent opponent, Alexei Navalny, was poisoned with a Novichok nerve agent.
The results provide indisputable proof that a chemical nerve position gas of the Novichok group was present.
The 44-year-old was taken ill on a return flight to Moscow last month after drinking tea at an airport cafe. His flight was forced to make an emergency landing in Siberia, where he was sent to an intensive care unit before being transferred to Berlin 2 days later. Germany's leader on Wednesday strongly condemned Russia and demanded answers from the Kremlin.
Alexei Navalny is the victim of a crime. He was meant to be silenced, and I condemn this in the sharpest possible manner in the name of the entire German government. We expect the Russian government to explain itself to this incident.
In response, a spokesman for the Kremlin said they're ready to cooperate and called on Germany for a full exchange of information. He also insisted Russian doctors had not found traces of poison before Navalny was transferred to Berlin. Western leaders responded to the latest development angrily. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen called the poisoning despicable and cowardly. UK and Italy demanded Russia explain, with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson calling it outrageous. The U.S. National Security Council called the poisoning completely reprehensible and said the U.S. would work with the international community to hold those in Russia accountable. Germany's announcement has also thrown previous suspected poisonings of the Kremlin's foes back into the spotlight. A Novichok nerve agent was used in an attack on a former Russian spy and his daughter in the UK in 2018, which Kremlin denied playing a role in. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Hello, I'm Lee Ji-yeon with the latest weather update. Typhoon Maysak's strong winds and heavy rain caused storm surges along the east of the country. While it entered Donghae's east coast at around 6:30 a.m. and will dissipate this evening. However, we still need to stay alert as typhoon watches remain in place for central parts of the country and the east coast. But conditions are forecast to improve in the afternoon. The rain will taper off in the south, while the central region could see heavy rain for most of the day with gusty winds. Afternoon highs will go up higher in the south with some sunshine, but we'll still need to brace for another strong autumn typhoon. This one is called Haishen. For now, the weather agency is looking at Haishen to directly impact the whole country, feeling the impact from this Sunday. And if Haishen makes landfall in South Korea as expected, it would break the record for the most typhoons to make landfall in a single season. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.